excited to be with you guys today. Lori Rudolph-Owen, JJ Owen, you guys are both in cell biology at around the same time.
Exact same time.
So you're in the job market together. Were you guys in a search of a job at the same time?
I actually was a little bit ahead of JJ. So I was a postdoc here after I did my graduate work, postdoc for about a year when we thought he was close to being done, but you know how that is. I had started looking for jobs, and we had chosen the Boston area just because we knew that there would be a lot of opportunities there. And it was in the late 90s that I was looking for jobs. So it's not like the internet was just coming out, but it was a lot of sending resumes and things by snail mail. Okay. And I actually got an offer within a couple of months, and so ended up moving up while you still had about a year left.
Yep.
Graduate program.
Okay, and then you were looking in Boston after that?
Yep, so we obviously separated for a little while by distance, and then eventually I headed up and did my postdoc briefly for a few months before I decided it was time to move on and try something else. Yep. And in that time, believe it or not, I found my initial job in the paper, like literally in a little wanted ad paper. I think it was a biotech-specific paper, but nonetheless, it was a little paper that they were looking for curators, editors, whatever, and I answered that and went from there.
And so you guys your strategy is sticking with the same location, right? So you guys have been in Boston for the same time. What are some of the other strategies that you guys have used to sort of manage the dual career life balance?
So one of the big aspects is having kids. Having kids, and so how are we going to juggle? Actually, daycare pickup, drop off is always a problem. Or are you getting a nanny, or what are you going to do there? And so we, I think, worked out a pretty good schedule while the kids were young. Is one of us would drop off, one would pick up, but still juggling when one of us had to travel sometimes was an issue. We also don't have family in the area. My family's in Wisconsin, his is in Mississippi, so we didn't have family to really back up any child care. And I think what we've done since then, though, is we live in a really good community that we lean on the neighbors quite a bit to help out in that regard.
I think the other thing that's helpful too is sometimes at work, you want to get something done, but you have priorities, and you just have to tell your boss or wherever you're working, you know what, today I'm going to have to do this, or I have to leave early. This is what's happening. And I found more often than not, your boss or your boss's boss or whoever you're working with are like, that's fine, no worries. Yeah. We'll see you later online. Your child gets sick, you just have to leave. That's the way it works. Yeah. And I found initially you're horrified. You might have to say that, I'm going to leave work, this is bad. And 90%, 100% of the time, I've never had a problem with it.
Okay. So what qualities does your spouse have that really makes it work for your juggle, your dual career juggle?
I think we are partners, and I think that's a must. It's not a my career and that's it. It's not his career and that's it. We really partner in actually all that we do. When we were looking to move, we really talked about it quite a bit. Is it Boston a good area? Would it be San Diego or San Francisco? What would make the most sense? And even I've gone to 7 different companies right within the Boston area, and even some of those moves, some have been a little bit more of a commute than others. We talked to each other about it, and sometimes I would have more travel. Like when I worked for Pfizer, I had a lot more travel. But then he would say, yep, it's a good opportunity, you should do it. So there was definitely a partnership in most cases. And obviously right now, it's even the biggest partnership because he works from home. And that allows me to be able to have much more flexibility at work because someone else is doing the laundry and the grocery shopping and hauling the kids around.
Sure.
I mean, the piece of that, if I guess just sub-piece of that is communication, right? You say in advance, hey, I'm thinking about taking this job, how should we work this out? Our kids are going to need this. I mean, we realize as the kids are getting older, they're going to need less and less chaperoning around.
And more running around now.
I guess it's all the same. But the point I'm making is as long as you communicate, figure things out, I think the partnership thing is true.
Okay. Did you guys prioritize anything as a couple or individually that really helped you with your career success, that helped you get to where you are?
I don't think we actively prioritized.
No,
you don't think?
I mean, just a lot of stuff we do, such as when I was thinking about going consulting, for example. We talked about that. It's a big step. You don't just suddenly run off and start willy-nillying it everywhere else. You figure it out, and we'd say, okay, I might do this. If it doesn't work out maybe a year from now, we'd talk about it. I'll go try again. We'll go back into the workforce, and it's again back to communication.
I think one of the big pieces, though, too, is we both are pretty agile with identifying what we want in our career. It's not that we said, okay, we are going this path and this is all we want and that's it. Throughout moving from academics into industry and even the jobs we have in industry, it's more of what's the opportunity, do we like it, are we happy? So we've been really flexible as we move from job to job, and I think also we have the same within our relationship as well. It's not that you have to do this or you have to do that. We don't have those boundaries, and I think that really helps quite a bit.
Good.
I will say one thing I think that has helped a lot is during our career paths, each respectively, travel-wise, it's been pretty minimal. When she was at Pfizer, she traveled a good bit.
Yeah.
That's been pretty much it. So if like both of us had jobs that required a lot of travel, or one of us had a job where you're a salesperson at a pharmaceutical company where you're traveling 4 out of 5 days of every week, that would have been a lot more interesting. We didn't have that happen. It wasn't that big of a deal. Even when you were at Pfizer, you didn't travel that much.
Not as much. I think the major thing we have now is we're both still in oncology, and we have the major meetings that we go to. So for a while, we were both going to ASH, so we had to bring up the grandparents to watch the kids, and now we're actually going up to ASCO constantly every year, so we always have to have childcare there. So we work with family and fly them out.
But that's only twice a year.
Yeah, it's not that often, but it still happens.
Yeah.
Sure. So what advice would you give current graduate students or postdocs who are together, who are looking to do that dual career search at this juncture, sort of?
I would say work it out together, figure out where you want to go together, start to just partner up.
Yeah, have the flexibility, be open with the communication, and don't box out all the opportunities. Just say, well, I can't do this because it might be too difficult, or it might be, I don't know, stagnant in my career. I mean, at some point you might want to more take a, not a high trajectory, but really just, kind of flatten out your career for a while. It kind of really depends, but definitely keep the communication open and have the flexibility within the choices.
Awesome. Thank you guys very much.
No worries.
Thanks.
I'm glad to be back with you, Tara and Paul Ruest. Tell me, were you guys both looking for your first job at the same time?
Not really.
I started a little bit earlier, probably about 3 or 4 months. I think I got to the point where I realized the postdoc was not for me, and so I started looking and found a position and moved from Boston to New Jersey. And then Paul kind of decided sort of he was in the same boat, and followed about 3 months later.
Yeah. Had some separation time there for a little
Yeah,
while.
and I was fortunate enough to be able to find a job in the same town that Tara was working. So we kind of got lucky, but with our backgrounds, it wasn't too difficult to find a medical writing job.
Okay. So when the second person started looking for a job, how did your spouse's career factor into what you had decided?
So I started looking for a job, as Tara said, after her. And I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, but I think, like I mentioned in our previous interview, that when she kind of described what she was doing, interpreting data and really weaving it into a story and communicating that, that's really what I liked. So, I kind of followed in that vein, so to speak.
Okay. What kind of word or sort of how do y'all feel about the phrase dual career couple? Do y'all hear that at all, or?
I feel like most of the people that we know are dual careers. I think especially in New Jersey, we currently live in Pennsylvania, but we did initially move to New Jersey and we lived there for about 10 years. I feel like it's a dual career place. You need to have some pretty significant income in order to, maintain a relatively decent living. So
yeah. What are some of the strategies that y'all use to sort of manage both of your careers at the same time?
Well, I took on, as I said, a more freelance role to allow that flexibility because Tara's job was a little bit more demanding at the time than mine, and we just needed that flexibility with the kids. So that, I was a natural fit for that since I had done freelance work in the past.
Sure. So what qualities does your spouse have that helps you sort of succeed as you both are working?
You go first. I feel.
I can think of 1 or 2 qualities, I'm sure.
No, I'm going to say some nice things. I think you really just do much better sort of in the at-home environment. You're able to kind of be more proactive about reaching out to people if your time's when you're slow. That's not my thing to reach out to people and kind of try to drum out business. So you're much more suited to that. I think in terms of just kind of taking care of the house and kind of being that person who's there to have a little bit more time to make sure that it's not falling down. I mean, I wouldn't be able to do that, on my end. And I think from my perspective, I'm a big organizer and sometimes you'd probably say micromanager. So, but I'm able to kind of coordinate a lot of the stuff for the family. So I think that's sort of my strength that I bring.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, she's definitely the organizer, and a lot of times I'm more of the implementer. But I think that works well for our situation, and with the kids as demanding as they can be at this age. I think we need that flexibility that I'm able to, that I'm afforded right now.
Yeah. So what kind of advice would you give graduate students or postdocs who are about to jump into the dual career search? Maybe some sort of words of wisdom for them.
I think some people think that they don't want to have the same career as their spouse or significant other, but I feel like I really like it. I mean, there's been times when over the last fall and winter, we were really short-staffed in my office, and he was able to freelance for my team, and so I'm able to download him. He did it. We worked really, really well together. We're able to kind of talk through some problems. I can ask him advice about something at home. And so I feel like that's really worked out really well for us. We understand what the other one is going through. When we have a tough client or tough situation or a rough deadline, we can empathize with one another a little bit better.
Yeah,
and that's important.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.